What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, today, according to rumors, is finally the day that this Switch Pro is supposed to be announced. So I guess in a couple of hours, we'll see if these rumors actually hold up. Today, though, we have a bunch of things to go over, actual news even, from Nintendo, as they have officially announced their plans for E3, which includes a big Direct as well as a full Treehouse event to look forward to. Also, we're going to be talking about Sony now coming under fire after announcing that several PS5 titles that were implied to be exclusives are actually going to be crossed-gen on the PS4, except for one, which was pretty blatantly announced as a PlayStation 5 exclusive that'll be heading to the PS4. And we're also going to be talking about a big milestone that was passed by the Switch in Japan. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with one more Switch Pro rumor just for fun right before, I guess, it is announced. We can see this on Twitter. This from Nintendo Alerts, pointing out apparently a couple of screenshots showing a retail placeholder listing for this Switch Pro with a price being shown of 399 euros, which generally that means that it would be $399 here in the US, even though the currency doesn't necessarily line up that well. It's that just seems to be how it is when we see these different listings get out there ahead of time. Now, it is important to note this is a placeholder that apparently can't be found on the website, just in their retail system. But either way, $400 would be higher than I would expect for this device. And I am curious, let's say Nintendo does announce it today, how much they would announce. Do they really need to tell us pricing or release date today? Could they wait a month or two to unveil that information? A few things to think about there. Again, a placeholder price that could just be set up because they need some sort of number there. We'll see, hopefully in a little bit, one, if the Switch Pro is even real, and two, if it has a price that comes with it today. Also, we have an update for God of War Ragnarok, specifically around its release window. Now, we can head over here. This was posted up on Twitter by Sony Santa Monica, saying, "We remain focused on delivering a top quality game while maintaining the safety and well-being of our team, creative partners, and families. With this in mind, we've made the decision to shift our release window to 2022. I don't think anyone's surprised to hear, like, was anyone expecting God of War to come out in 2021 when we haven't even seen a screenshot of the game and it's June? Like, I wouldn't expect that. I mean, I would look to see them release a trailer for it and then like the following year come out with it so they have at least a decent amount of marketing time and run up for the game. I mean, let's say it was supposed to come out in November. That would have left, what, like 5 months, and they still would have to show the thing in the first place. All we have right now is a Metroid Prime 4 like animated logo. So looking for that one, I guess, sometime next year. And they also talked, of course, about this being a PlayStation 4 title as well. That with Sony and Herman Hulst, something we'll get to a little later. Oh, and we also heard from Ben Studio, all this kind of coming out around the Q&A that was posted up on PlayStation blog. We can see this tweet that was put out here. From the Siphon Filter series to Resistance, Retribution to Uncharted Golden Abyss and Days Gone, we are very excited to announce today that we are expanding the Ben Studio portfolio with a brand new IP. And this was mentioned a bit more by Herman Hulst, saying that Ben Studio is working on a new IP and they are using the experience of building the open world with Days Gone, and I guess just some of the technical know-how that comes from building an open world like that and applying it to this new IP, which tells us, hey, it's going to be an open world game. And I do like the idea of them doing a new IP as opposed to a sequel to Days Gone, because I really felt like Days Gone just looked too similar to Last of Us. I know when you play them, they feel like different games, obviously, but like the game itself, when they were trying to market it, people were wondering if it was in the same universe as Last of Us. So the idea of them taking the knowledge that they gained from creating Days Gone and going off and making a new IP, I think is the better route for them. But I'm sure fans of Days Gone would have hoped that Days Gone 2 pitch would have gone a bit better. But I don't know, I think a new IP for Ben Studio is probably the best strategy for him. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo at E3. In about a week and a half, we're going to be seeing all kinds of games getting announced from different companies with Microsoft, Square, Ubisoft, and of course, Nintendo. But they've been pretty quiet, at least up until yesterday when they just dropped all the information on us as to when we can look forward to their big 40-minute Nintendo Direct. We can see this over on Twitter, where they say Nintendo at E3 2021, that'd be June 15th, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Tune in for a Nintendo Direct with roughly 40 minutes of info focused exclusively on Nintendo Switch software, mostly releasing in 2021, followed by around 3 hours of gameplay in Nintendo Treehouse Live. So this is exciting stuff. They also have their website now officially launched for E3 2021 with Nintendo and their Treehouse. Now, starting with the Direct, 40 minutes is about right. Typically, that would be the runtime for their past E3s, especially recently. It's been like 41 minutes, like 42 minutes. So this is about right. Obviously, they could have some runtime kind of go over that 40-minute mark, but a lot of people are expecting quite a bit from Nintendo here, and they didn't even point out any one game. They could have said, oh yeah, tune in for a bigger look at Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 and other games we have coming up here in the next year for the Nintendo Switch. I feel like Breath of the Wild 2 is probably gonna be a 2022 game, and they may have some other stuff lined up for holiday 2021, considering we've heard rumors around maybe a Mario Kart, Donkey Kong, we've heard rumors around a 2D Metroid. We already know that No More Heroes 3 is coming out this holiday, and of course, we have a couple of Pokemon games to look forward to, but they could surprise us with some other reveals, and because they are saying mostly 2021, that's kind of where I'm looking at, okay, how much of 2022 are they going to line up? Will they talk about Splatoon 3 here? They very well could, if maybe that's the first half of 2022, or maybe they drop a big time announcement on us that's not coming out for a while, kind of like what they did with Breath of the Wild 2. Now, also moving over to the Treehouse, that is 3 hours long, and we can have reveals and announcements happen throughout the Treehouse. They could have amiibos announced. I mean, they even announced Samus Returns right there in the Treehouse, which was odd that they didn't throw that into the Direct, but maybe it's because they were kind of looking at 3DS games as on its way out, and they figured, hey, we'll show it off here with gameplay and just kind of set it up with its release date during the Treehouse. So it is important, I would say, to pay attention to at least the first hour of that Treehouse to see if they have any big reveals there. You could also see, like I said, accessories, amiibos, developer comments. Those are always fun to see what comes out there, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be streaming Nintendo's E3 presentation when that goes live, so make sure you stop by the channel on June 15th, and depending on how the Treehouse goes and what is revealed and what's being played, we'll probably check that out too. So looking forward to E3, certainly. Nintendo closing it out here, which, by the way, people were a bit confused or concerned about that. I think it makes sense considering they're going to follow it up with a three-hour Treehouse, and if this was in the middle of E3, that might conflict with scheduling around, say, Square or Devolver or Ubisoft or any of these other companies that maybe want to have different events going on. If it's like right at the end of E3, well, Nintendo can have that full 3-hour block to close out, and it won't really affect anything else around them. So exciting stuff. Looking forward to E3 coming up here in about a week and a half. Next up, let's talk about Sony and cross-gen support. Now, if you remember, back when Microsoft was talking about how the next couple of years they're going to be doing a lot of cross-gen titles for the Xbox One and the Series X and S, and how they brought up that Halo Infinite would be a cross-gen title, and there was a lot of pushback around that, and Microsoft's plans for cross-gen, where Sony was, they're pretty quiet, and Microsoft got kind of beaten down online about those plans. Well, turns out Sony has, they have similar plans. I mean, sure, they have some exclusives, like we have Ratchet & Clank coming up, we just had Returnal come out, Destruction All-Stars for whoever remembers that one, and then naturally we had Demon's Souls. So, and I guess we could throw Astrobot in there because that's actually a really good PlayStation 5 title, but looking around now anyway, it does seem that quite a few games coming up are also going to be on the PlayStation 4. In fact, let's head over here to the PlayStation blog where they had a full Q&A with Herman Hulse at PlayStation, and this is what he had to say. You can't build a community of over 110 million PS4 owners and then just walk away from it, right? I think that'd be bad news for fans of PS4 and frankly not very good business, where it makes sense to develop a title for both PS4 and PS5 for Horizon Forbidden West, the next God of War, Gran Turismo 7. We'll continue looking at that, and if PS4 owners want to play that game, then they can. If they want to go on and play the PS5 version, that game will be there for them. That being said, it's also very important to have showpieces for PS5, hence the development of Returnal and Ratchet that are exclusive to PS5. And I actually think a lot of what Hermen Hulst is saying here makes sense. Having cross-gen games so you can take advantage of, what's their most successful console ever? I know people look to the PS2, but the PS4 has sold the most software, and I'm sure it's made them the most money overall, especially when you take into account their network services, especially with PlayStation Plus and the amount of subscribers they have there, and the entire digital storefront and all of the customers with a PlayStation 4. They pretty much have to release games for them, especially since there is such an issue getting PlayStation 5 systems just to retail shelves and then eventually to customers who would buy that software. We just talked about the PS5 getting back in stock in the UK and how a lot of games such as Spider-Man Miles Morales exploded to the top of the charts because they were buying all the software up. They finally found a PlayStation 5 system at stores. So to hear about this isn't surprising. The part that appears to be frustrating a lot of people right now is that they weren't exactly clear with the messaging. Now you can say, all right, God of War, that was something that they left up to interpretation. They're very coy about the way they marketed that game. They said, oh, it's a PlayStation exclusive. Well, which PlayStation? They didn't really specify. That was the biggest thing there. Horizon Forbidden West, they kind of waited until they got to the reveal of the PS5 to say it's also a PS4 title, which seeing the PlayStation 5 reveal for Horizon Forbidden West, the game looks great. I don't really think about it being a PS4 title even looking at it, but it's good to know that, as they say, 110 million PS4 owners will be able to experience that without having to stress about finding a PlayStation 5. But what about Gran Turismo 7? This is where a lot of the talk is coming up because there was a trailer, you can see that here, that was released back in December. This was December 7th, 2020, titled New and Upcoming Games on the PS5. And in this, we can actually see that Gran Turismo 7 was being advertised as a PlayStation 5 exclusive, which is very different than how, say, Spider-Man or Horizon Forbidden West were being advertised as PlayStation exclusives. So it's pretty clear that they were maybe bending the truth there, basically, lying or misleading to their audience, thinking that you need a PS5 to play Gran Turismo 7, creating FOMO if they could, so that the PS5, just overall demand would continue. I don't know if it really needed Gran Turismo 7 to be a PS5 exclusive to push PS5s as we went along with Ratchet & Clank coming out, but that apparently is the marketing they decided to go with. Now, the other interesting part from this Q&A is talk around Horizon Forbidden West development came up, and there were some concerning bits of information thrown in here. Let's head over here once again to PlayStation blog from Hermen Hulst saying, for Horizon, we think we are on track to release this holiday season, but that isn't quite certain yet, and we're working as hard as we can to confirm that to you as soon as we can. So it still appears to be up in the air if Horizon Forbidden West will be coming out this holiday. It could slip to 2022, and that would be a pretty solid year for Sony, wouldn't? Just from the games we would know at that time, Horizon Forbidden West and God of War both coming out there. One earlier, that'd probably be Horizon Forbidden West, and then maybe God of War Ragnarok kind of close out the year with maybe another big game thrown in the middle. So that would be pretty solid, but then it would kind of leave up the question, what's their holiday title for this year then? We're expecting, obviously, a State of Play sometime this summer, maybe to set up the rest of this year, so they could have something up their sleeve. But if Horizon Forbidden West falls to 2022, that'll certainly leave an overall hole in their release schedule. But certainly a lot of information to take in here from this Q&A. I'll leave it down in the sources if you want to read through it. It's pretty interesting, like I said, to hear talk around cross-gen and how Sony has kind of shifted their thoughts around believing in generations and being like, oh, wait, there were a lot of people who owned a PS4, right? Maybe we should put some games on that system still. Next up, let's talk about a big milestone that the Switch has now crossed in Japan, and that being that it sold more than 20 million units in just Japan, which is massive, and it's actually coming up now on the 3DS, which I believe is like 24 million or so in Japan. But we can see this over on Nintendo Life, saying, as reported by Famitsu, the system sales total ticked over 20 million sales mark earlier today, 2nd of June. The console initially launched on March 3rd, 2017, meaning it has taken just over 4 years for the milestone to be met. We also have a list of the best-selling Switch games in Japan. They listed the top 5 there, with Animal Crossing New Horizons already at 6.78 million. This is just in Japan. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate at 4.29 million. Pokemon Sword and Shield, we see the boycotts working very well there, 4.05 million. Splatoon 2 at 3.87 million, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 3.84 million. So obviously in Japan, the Switch is pretty much the dominant system overall. Getting to 20 million units sold in just over 4 years is extremely impressive, which is one of the reasons a lot of people are looking around and saying, okay, you see like Bandai Namco and Square start to have a bit more of a focus on the Switch as it continues to grow in Japan, and then of course all over the world. As we see the Switch run up to 100 million units sold, a lot of third-party developers are going to start to realize, well, maybe we could just make exclusive games outright for the Switch, as it has that large install base, especially since they are seeing the install size for like the PS5 and the Series X and S kind of restart from their previous generation. It's not a bad idea to also drop some games on the Switch as like third-party exclusives to kind of continue the sales momentum for places like Bandai Namco, Koei Tecmo, Square, and so on. But yeah, the Switch rolling along in Japan. It should be passing the 3DS. I wouldn't be shocked if that happened, by the way, by the end of the year, especially if they have some pretty solid holiday games to release alongside of Pokemon. And then, I mean, if you have Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 there, it's over, I would say. It's going to cross the 3DS mark. But otherwise, if it's the beginning of next year, that would still be a really strong way to start off 2022. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Nintendo apparently opening a museum. At least this was a press release that they put out on their website. We can see it here where they say Nintendo is pleased to announce that its Nintendo Yuji Ogura plant and the land surrounding the building will be used as a new gallery to showcase the many products Nintendo has launched over its history. Nintendo has been discussing the possibility of building a gallery as a way to share Nintendo's product development history and philosophy with the public. To this end, the Nintendo Yuji Ogura plant will be renovated to accommodate the gallery, a decision reached after taking consideration of the city of redevelopment area in the nearby Ogura Station area. Now they go on further to say the facility, tentatively named Nintendo Gallery, where Nintendo's historical products will be showcased and exhibits and experiences will be available, is expected to be completed within our 2023 fiscal year, which ends in March 2024. So we're still a ways off from this. These are just like the initial plans of them creating a museum that, according to them, will have showcases and experiences. And they also mentioned the land around it, so they could actually do quite a bit here with the idea of a Nintendo interactive museum, which I think is a great idea. Now, I have never been to the Nintendo store in New York, but people have said that there are like things set up on display. It's kind of like a mini museum in different parts of that store. So why not go all out here and have basically this really cool place you go and you see the history of Nintendo, where they can kind of tell the story of how they started with, well, maybe they shouldn't go back to the hotels, but like start with the Famicom, right? Or the Game Boy, things like that. And then work from there. They could start with the playing cards and other things they did with toys before games, but there is a lot of history to go over. So I wouldn't mind visiting this. It's just going to be a while, like 2 or 3 years before we probably even get pictures or updates around it, but certainly something to look forward to visit at some point in the future. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, are you concerned that God of War Ragnarok and GT7 are now announced to be cross-gen titles for PS4 and PS5? And this was kind of split. 46% said yes, I was hoping these games would just be on PS4, and 54% said no, being on PS4 opens up the games to more people. There were comments that were laying out concerns of these games possibly being held back, and some even saying, hey, I mean, I bought the PS5 because I thought there would be PS5 only games, specifically something like God of War or Gran Turismo 7, which Gran Turismo 7 is a little surprising because I kind of feel like that game will be used to show off the next PlayStation VR headset as well. So that, and you have Polyphony, which, I mean, this game might not be coming out for a while if they also have to work on the PS4. They've been notorious for just taking a while to get some of these Gran Turismo games out, but I can understand the point of view from both sides. Because, I mean, if you were someone who has a PS4 and you haven't been able to find a PS5, you're probably like, wow, I can play God of War and Gran Turismo and Horizon on my PS4. I don't necessarily need to rush out and get this PlayStation 5 system right now, especially if you're someone who's like, doesn't really care about Ratchet and Clank, which looks phenomenal, so I don't really know why you wouldn't. But I understand that. It's something maybe you can wait on, and if that's the case, you might be good with your PS4 for a little while. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Austrian saying, maybe they should sell some offline, you know, like in former days. Hey, this is about the Switch revision and how I'm sure it's going to be heavily scalped online, and you see the listings go up at different online retailers and they go down immediately, and then they pop up all over eBay. But I am starting to see more and more Xbox Series S systems, interestingly enough, show up in Walmarts around me and even Best Buy. So maybe by the time this device like goes on sale, we'll just say September, October, as has been rumored, maybe by then they just show up in stores and we can just go get them the old-fashioned way and not have to fight with online bots just to be able to get one. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Where Sony coming under fire after advertising Gran Turismo 7 as a PlayStation 5 exclusive, or even the whole cross-gen talk in general. Let me know your thoughts on that update from Sony. Also, what about Nintendo's plans for E3? What are you planning to see in not only the 40-minute direct, but then also the 3-hour Treehouse that'll follow up? And would you go and visit this big museum that Nintendo is working to open in a couple of years in Japan? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.